I couldn't be any more excited right now.
Those hands were filled with poop-stained underwear, which he allegedly smeared on the face of his victim.
Do you realize what percentage of your opening conversations are about bathrooms, Merrill?
Sometimes when you look through the little hole between the stalls, you can see another guy. You should just look him in the eyes the entire time.
I think you have the wrong expectations for what's going to go down here. We're going off the rails here. Maybe football instead.
As always, next year. Happy National Mole Day, everybody. Also, happy TV talk show host day. I'm not sure when podcast host day is, but that's got to be coming up soon. We're due. Also,
every day is podcast host day.
It should be. Also, happy Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So yeah, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so be aware breast cancer exists. With me this week, got Anthony. What's going on, man? We can't hear Anthony.
Anthony,
are you muted?
How's it going, man?
There you go. All
okay.
Right. It's going good.
Only the best with the Sandlot cast.
Coming off a 2-0 week for the first time in a long time. So, Hillers, on the other hand, how's things with you?
I'm learning what it's like to be you, Merrill, and I do not like it here. Things are bad. Things are not good at all.
It goes bad pretty quick. You gotta watch out for that.
Things really turned on me. It's like the grapes of wrath over here.
Yeah, so lots of injuries, huh, in the NFL? What's going on, man? I mean, it seems like everybody's going down.
It was a bad week for injuries. I mean, I think there were, maybe 3 or 4 players that are done for the season. Reggie Wayne, Brian Cushing,
Sam Bradford,
the great.
There goes the championship. Also a podcast. So she's injured. I'm playing her too, but I went 2-0 this week, so I got my my broken toe, so. But I was able to power through.
Oh, good. Congrats.
Good for you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Come down there and break another one.
Good. By the way, National Mole Day. Anthony, any idea what National Mole Day is? Since you're an engineer, and it might not be the mole you think it is.
Well, I was gonna think. Yeah, I thought it was the little animal, the little blind animal. And it's probably.
I'm a mole. I have trouble seeing in the daylight. That's for Nick there. He'll get it.
That's not what it is, though.
Is it like the mole that might be on your neck, or in a weird spot on your body that turns red when you touch it?
No, it's.
I've got one of those.
The mole...
Do you guys want to see it? It's right near my butt.
No.
The basic measuring unit mole.
Get a pressed ham.
Equals the atomic mass of a single molecule and is measured in grams.
Cool.
And someone made a day for that?
It was first conceived in the article "The Science Teacher" in the early 1980s. So teachers made it up, chemistry teachers.
Ugh, they can do better.
No, they can't probably.
They're not engaging the youth.
What else are they going to celebrate? So you guys want to get in some team reviews?
Yeah, might as well. What else are we here for?
We had our divisional doubleheader week, a mid-season divisional doubleheader. I think a lot of things changed. I feel like it shook it up more than normal. I feel like
my season's over.
Well, for one thing. We'll see. We'll get to that, but let's start where we normally start here with the highest scoring team, and that was one touchdown Jesus this week, who put up 125 points. They beat the Weenye Masters of Elegance and also Hillers.
Did they really beat the Weenye?
Well, they played the Weenye.
To play them is to beat them.
Of course they won. They go to 6-4 now. We're 4-4 now. It's 6-4, looking a lot better into second place, and then still 2 games behind Dave. All of our divisional leaders right now are 2 games up, so it's going to be interesting. 2 games up with 6 to go. Going to be tough to catch them, but we'll see. But Anthony, what do you think about Calvin Johnson this week?
Yeah, he's good. Just as I was saying last week, he's a top 5 wide receiver, and he's better than Ruben Randall.
Okay. But what do you think about TDJ this week? Now that he's at 6-4, are we starting to believe a little bit?
I'm starting to. At this point, so late in the season, if you have a winning record and you're two games up from somebody else, although in this case he's not, but you got a winning record, you don't need to do much else to make the playoffs. You just have to go 500 from here on out to make the playoffs. So he's in a good spot to nab a wild card, and maybe with a little bit of luck, he'll catch Dave.
Right. Hillers, you missed last week's podcast. You were a little under the weather, I know.
Yeah.
You weren't able to chime in on TDJ. So what are your thoughts on that?
I wish I'd missed this one because this is just terrible. But I mean, there is a lot of talent on this team. But I mean, even in his hour of victory, I think you can tell that he needs guys to show up, and probably more than one guy on a given week to come out with the victory here. I mean, he had some really special performances by two of his studs, which is perfectly legit way to win. But
I would say three of his studs
could let you down a little bit, right? And Ryan Matthews even had a much better game.
So let me ask you. I mean, Anthony, you've been kind of a staunch Ryan Matthews basher on this podcast, and rightfully so. He's been terrible up until like the last.
Why would you ever like
up
him?
Until like the last few weeks, though? He's been pretty solid. Are you starting to believe a little bit in Matthews?
Well, they're giving him more carries, and I'm not sure exactly why that is. Against Jacksonville, I wouldn't be too surprised because Jacksonville is terrible. But in the case of Indianapolis, I watched that game. It was a pretty close game all through the fourth quarter, and he got more carries than I thought he would. And more carries will typically yield you more yards. But I just don't see that pace continuing. I think that Phillip Rivers has got to come down to earth, and if that happens, then Ryan Matthews is going to struggle.
Yeah, I mean, he's the number 17th ranked running back right now. He's ahead of Doug Martin, ahead of Darren Sproles.
He's going to stay ahead of Doug Martin.
D'Angelo Williams, Darren McFadden, Trent Richardson. He's ahead of all those guys right now. So, and double-digit points in 3 of his last 4 games. So it could continue. I mean, he's a guy who's never really put it together. He's either been injury or just been on a bad team. But now that the Chargers are somewhat competent, I think he might hold.
Yeah, he doesn't have to be all that good on a team that is playing as well as that team is playing right now.
Right.
He doesn't have to be the best running back to be putting up better than that numbers.
So a couple more things about TDJ's team. And one thing that I said last week is that you're not going to expect a big game like that out of Cam Newton. And in this week, it held true. He put up, in my opinion, what Cam Newton typically puts up, something between 15 and 20 points. But he did have, as you say, extra special performances out of 3 other guys.
Actually, Merrill, can I ask you something? Something's got to be near and dear to your heart. Is Roy Halou a flex player for him now? With 3 rushing touchdowns last?
I was very upset that he got all the touchdowns.
He must have been really pissed.
As a Freddie Morris owner. I was upset. But the thing was, Morris still had more carries. The carry split was almost 2-1. Morris, I think, is still the guy. I think it's just Halou's going to have a role. He's going to be the pass catcher. He's going to be the guy in the 2-minute offense. And when they asked Shanahan about it, I think he said Morris had basically run them down there, and he was tired at that point. They wanted to bring in the fresh guy. So basically, he just came in and vultured my touchdown. So
2-3 yarders there. That has to burn.
That said, Halou has been solid the past few weeks. He seems to have a role in that offense, and that offense is looking better and better each week. So Halou might be a viable starter, and I think Morris is still a good RB2.
Sure,
so,
definitely. Nothing wrong with Morris, but I'm wondering if Halou is somebody you could plug into your lineup on this team, maybe if
he's getting the touches.
Some depth.
I mean, he's had at least 10 touches in his last 3 games. So, but yeah. So one other thing we're going to do at the end of each one, we all made our preseason predictions on playoffs, and I'm just going to go over what those were and see if anybody wants to change what their predictions were on playoffs.
Like a Brad Caver double down, maybe.
Kind of a Brad Caver double down. So the only prediction on TDJ, remember we only picked wild card teams and division winners. So the only prediction on TDJ was I said they would be wild card and I said they would win the championship, and I am going to double down on that. I still think they are a very strong team, and or brag. I'm going to brag on that one actually because right now they're in wild card spot, and who knows, they could win the championship. So nobody else really had any predictions on TDJ, unless you guys want to change them.
Well, I mean, if we didn't have a prediction, it means that they didn't make the playoffs, right? And this is a 500 team according to the breakdown. 500 teams don't typically make the playoffs, but sometimes they do. And if they do make the playoffs, this is going to be one of those cases where he ekes in on luck.
Right.
So.
Yeah, too soon for me to say that. I'm convinced he's going to get a wild card because there's just a lot of teams kind of around his level of victories and points right now. So.
It's going to take luck for anybody to get in it. There's only 4 teams that are above 500, and this is one of them. So, anybody getting in the playoffs, it takes luck in this game. But I think, again, he's got 4 elite players on this team, and I think those players will carry him in. Hillers is our next team here. Hillers was on the business end of TDJ's
Does it have to be?
Hillers, you didn't put up a terrible score. I mean, 89.9, not a terrible score.
Well,
you
1
lost
point
both
out of
your
my
games.
stupid kicker doesn't help, bullshit like
doesn't.
that. No.
But 89.9, you lost to Dave and TDJ. That brings you to 5-5, third place, and 3 games back of Dave. Actually, I'm sorry, we skipped Dave's team. We'll do Dave's team next. But 3 games back of Dave, which means you're 1-5 after starting 4-0. You've now gone 1-5. Anthony, we'll start with you here. Should Hillers be panicking?
Yeah, absolutely. For a couple of reasons. I mean, he has a couple of injuries, which is depleting his depth because he's got to hold some players. But all his other depth guys are not doing well. You can't rely on guys like Chris Agbayana and Robert Woods. And,
Well,
Agbayani?
Yeah, you can't rely on those guys. I mean, yeah, I
I got him on Sunday, though. I mean, he was just, a shot in the dark.
He's no Bobby Rainey.
He's no Bobby Rainey.
That's better than him.
And the injuries are obviously killing him. But maybe the biggest rough patch here is what do you think about Bilal Powell? What's going on with this guy? I mean, all of a sudden, Chris Ivory gets the start and runs. How many carries was that?
Like
34.
34 carries.
34 carries.
I think that one of the reasons that Chris Hillers made that trade to get rid of Alfred Morris is because he thought he had the running back depth, and now all of a sudden one guy goes down and the other guy loses his job. Now what do you do?
Yeah.
Christ.
Yeah, I had DeMarco Murray and his handcuff, and neither of them were playing. I mean, what?
Yeah. Hillers, and honestly, I mean, the burning $19 on Bobby Rainey really looking like it hurts you now because you don't have,
that was really stupid.
You don't have a ton of cash.
Bringing that up, Merrill.
Well,
No, I don't have a ton of cash, and honestly, lottery ticket waiver wire pickups are like the only thing I can hope for right now, until some of these injuries get resolved. I mean, I know Jay Cutler is out for 4 weeks. That's not helping Brandon Marshall's value too much. We already talked about the Jets situation, but I don't know whether I can trust DeAndre Hopkins with Case Keenum more or less. I thought against the Chiefs, not at all, but he ended up being a 13-point receiver there. Not that it would have won me. Not that it would have won me either one of these games to have that, but
yeah.
I mean, but this isn't a terrible score considering that my kicker only got 1 point. And I got some real underperformances by guys that should have played well, but I don't know where to go from here. I am panicking.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I think my season's over.
2 things.
Fire sale if I lose one more game.
First, it's a week-to-week game, right? So let's say DeMarco Murray and Danny Amendola come back next week. You're in business, right? I mean, if these guys come back, your team's looking pretty strong again. I mean, you've got very few. I mean, your flex spot's a little weak, but who doesn't have a weak flex spot in this league? So
you don't think Jared Boykin is the real deal?
Well, if James Jones comes back, he's not. I don't think.
No, he's not.
Well, I disagree. I almost disagree with that because Finley's out now. I mean, I think any receiver that is in that Green Bay offense is gonna get the targets, and that's all you want.
I guess. I mean, it is an offense that can support 3 to 4 receivers, but I don't know that Jarrett Boykin is of the quality that can get those. I mean, he's not a guy you want to depend on. He's not a guy you want to plug in your lineup and say, "Come on, Jarrett Boykin." That's a
guy you keep on your bench and hope he has a few games in a row. But now he's in my starting lineup, and I hope he has a few games in a row.
Boykin had 10 targets and caught 8 of them. I mean, I think that's...
Yeah, but James Jones didn't play.
Don't get me wrong. I hope he's a beast. I hope by, the time the season starts next year, he looks like Randall Cobb. But
here's the other thing.
Don't see it happening.
As long as we're talking about Packers, the Packers are running the ball. They've got a running game now. And I know Rodgers put up some good points this week.
Yeah.
But if you
for like the first time this season, though.
One of the reasons Rodgers has been a perennial top 2, top 3 quarterback, if not the best, is volume. He's had to pass all the time because they couldn't run. Their running game was short passes. But now with Eddie Lacy, especially in the red zone now, they're going to be running a lot more. He can bang in those touchdowns. And that may hurt Rodgers a little bit. It's still Aaron Rodgers.
I'm not too panicked. I mean, he's always had more than 30 attempts. You know what I mean? Even when they were up. And so in some ways it's good to have another option there for a running game. And obviously they've had a bunch of injuries in his wide receivers, and he still can go out and put 3 touchdowns up there. So I'm not that worried about it. I'm a little more worried when one of the teams I'm playing actually has Eddie Lacy playing against me. Yeah. It makes it hard for me to watch my beloved Packers. I'm glad they won, but
Right. Yeah, I mean, Rodgers is still an elite quarterback, but in the past, he's been a guy who, with the volume he gets, can make up for some holes in the lineup.
He
And
could throw like 60 times some of those
he
weeks.
might not be that guy anymore. I mean, he put up a great score this week, and he's still a top 5 quarterback, no doubt. But just something to watch. Predictions preseason on this team.
I'll watch it.
Anthony, you said this team was a wild card. Hillers, you said you were going to win the division, and Anthony, you also said this team was going to beat the. Well, we'll get to who they were going to beat, but we're going to be the champion this year.
I remember that.
Do you? How do you feel about that right now?
I am going to have to cave.
Yeah, I know. It's. So you don't think he's a wild card team anymore, even though now he is in the wild card spot.
If I gave him a wild card spot now, then I'd say, okay, he still has a shot to win the championship. He's only got to win 3 games after that.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's going to make that wild card anymore. There's a lot. Hillers is trending down, and other teams are trending up.
Hillers, you still think you have a chance at winning the division?
None. I completely cave. No, this team is a natural disaster. It's a sinkhole.
Alrighty.
Yeah, no good can come of it. Out of the playoffs altogether.
Okay, let's jump to Dave's team, who's leading this division. He scored 124.4 points, doubleheader week. What does Dave do? Put up 120 plus. That's just his players show up for those big weeks. And he beats the Wiener, Masters of Elegance, and Hillers. Again, well, he played the Wiener.
He played the Wiener, which is a victory.
Sorry, Wiener. And Hillers, and it brings him to 8-2 on the year, in first place in the division, and like all the first place teams, he's 2 games up. Hillers. We all thought Dave's team. Well, we didn't all think Dave's team might be good, but there was
I thought he
talk
might be good.
Right. I think you were one of the people who thought Dave's team might be good. Is this what you meant? 8-2? I mean,
I gotta say, he's looking very savvy with that Andrew Luck trade.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think that unlike my team, who is collapsing under its own weight, his team is getting stronger as the season goes on with the guys that he's managing to acquire here, you know, and he might lose a little bit of steam on a guy like Anquan Bolden, say if like Crabtree comes back, but on the other hand, you know, guys like Eddie Lacy are showing up. You know, Frank Gore hasn't, you know, wilted away like people thought he was, and you know that there was some weak performances on this team, but when you can have weak performances and still put up over 120 points, it doesn't look all that dissimilar to me from Pritchard's team, except I just sort of like some of his guys maybe a little bit better.
Dave's or Pritchard's guys?
Dave's,
Really?
Just in terms of consistency. You know, not out of, you know, I mean, obviously, you know, but, you know, between Victor Cruz and Calvin Johnson, you know, I could almost flip a coin, you know.
I mean, have you looked at Victor Cruz's numbers, though, this year? They're not great.
Well, the Giants' passing game should be of some concern to him, but I'm not shocked to see that this team has managed to do better than people were giving it credit for. You know, and he deserves to be up there. He's putting up big numbers.
All right, so you would flip a coin between Cruz and Calvin Johnson. Well,
on this season.
I don't know about that.
I mean, if you ask me which one I'm going to keep, obviously it's CJ. I'm not Anthony over here. I love Calvin Johnson. Right. I'd love to have him on my team.
Well, Anthony, Dave's team. I can't remember. I think you've been bouncing around like a lot of us have on Dave's team. You know, is this 8-2? He's in, right? I mean, is this his team? Is this what we can expect?
So 8-2, he's definitely gonna win probably his division, but he's definitely making the playoffs here. At 8-2, I mean, you can go less than 500 and still get a playoff spot, right? You only need to win basically one more.
He needs 3. I mean, I think 3 gets him playoffs for sure.
One more would be a playoff with the amount of points he's put up. Yeah.
If he goes 3-3 on the way in, he's pretty much got his division.
And I said it last week, and you guys disagree with me, but Luck is a good addition to that team. You guys were poo-pooing the trade and said that, you know, Luck is more of a long-term thing than a now, but look what happened. I mean, he had a great game.
I would not have said that had I been here. I think that's an amazing pickup.
He's way more consistent than Andy Dalton and Eli Manning. And yeah, like Hiller said, this team's only getting stronger. I just kind of browsed through Dave's schedule though. So let's say he wins the division, and he may be looking at a first-round exit in the playoffs because he's got some tough Week 14 matchups.
Okay. Wow. Looking ahead there. I like that.
Nice.
Yeah, the Luck trade. I mean, maybe again. I'm perfectly, willing to admit I was wrong on the short-term value in that. I'm not saying short-term it was a bad move. I don't think the short-term increase was as big as the long-term increase that he's going to get from Andrew Luck, from having a franchise quarterback that you can plug in there every week. Every draft you come into, you say, I'm good there. I don't have to worry about it. I think that's probably what he likes most about that trade. But sure, short-term, there is a little bit of value there. I know what Nick has said a lot about that is, would you rather have Andy Dalton and Demaryius Thomas or Andrew Luck and Jerome Simpson, or Andrew Luck and Denarius Moore, or Andrew Luck and Anquan Bolden? The argument can be, and since then, Andy Dalton's put up 30 points both weeks. So
there is something to be said about having a franchise player, though. That's somebody that you just know you're going to keep. I mean, between Andrew Luck and Andy Dalton, I would take Andrew Luck, as I think most people would. You know what I mean? And maybe it's just a little bit of difference this season, but in a season where he's already winning a ton of games, to be able to pick up a guy that he knows he can keep from year to year for a while now, I mean, that's of real value in a league like this.
Sure.
I mentioned this last week as well, but Dave has kind of gotten pretty lucky on some scheduling and when he scores big. And this is another one of those lucky weeks where any other permutation of the divisional doubleheader and he would have lost to TDJ. So, Dave wins out again.
He's winning in points for by like 130. I mean, it's ridiculous because he just goes nuts in the doubleheader weeks. So,
I will say that
he's got wrapped up. So, I mean, if he gets...
Sorry, man. Go ahead. Did we lose? I guess we lost Mike.
Mike might have crapped out on us a little bit here, so how about we go on to whatever's next then?
Well, what I was going to say, though, is while Dave is leading in points for your own EBS, is actually, if you take away the doubleheaders, take away the double scoring for the doubleheaders, I am leading in points for what that's worth to all y'all.
Glad you checked that out for us, Ant. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem.
So, let's see. You want to talk about the Wiener then, as terrible as they are?
Yeah, he's the last team here.
Yeah. He's the last team, right. If there's a last team anywhere, it's this team. And it's just getting worse. I mean, Jay Cutler went out this week. I mean, it was bad enough he scored -2 points on a week he got injured. That will sometimes happen. That's just a factor of chance. But the Eagles were just unable to... I mean, I was watching Red Zone, and they're like,
Alert. Hey, we're back on air now.
hey, there we go.
Were we not on air?
It says we're on air now, so let's roll with it. We're talking about the Wiener.
We're just about to start talking about them, yeah. And boy, are they bad.
Yeah, so we asked the question a couple weeks ago, are they the worst team we've ever seen? And this is a team that hasn't broken 70 points, I think, in about 4 or 5 weeks maybe. Is this the worst team we've ever seen?
Yeah, it is.
We're sure of that now.
Well, I remember thinking in some years there's no way that any team could be worse than this. So I'd have to go back and do a little bit of research into exactly how many points those teams were scoring. But I'm seeing an awful lot of scores that begin in 4 from this team. And and it's not going to get better. There's no reason that it will improve.
Well, so Gronk is back. Well, so 40 is...
Yeah, and he put up 40 points with them.
Yeah, and he was the highest scoring player on his team, and it meant nothing.
So he forgot to take a kicker because he kept getting outbid on his kickers, so that's a lesson to all the newbies, who I think all understand this already anyway, but put in some backup bids. Don't rely on a one-shot when you only bid $1 on a kicker. So that's not going to happen every week. And then, so Gronk comes back, but then on the other hand, I'll say Gronk is worth probably about 10 points at least every week. But then you lose that going from Jay Cutler to Alex Smith. So maybe he's just kind of stuck in neutral here.
Yeah, I just don't see the 100-point potential in this team. I mean, he's got no RB2. He ended up dropping Darrell Richardson who was the last piece of that Matt Stafford trade, and Matt Stafford now the number 2 quarterback in all of fantasy football. Me and Nick kind of ran through the numbers, and he would have only won one more game if he had kept Stafford, so not a huge deal, but one game is still one game, and again, that goes to that what we were saying about Andrew Luck, and that having that franchise guy that you have long term is, there is something to say for that. I mean,
It's
you're
like
probably
a warm
keeping
blanket.
Stafford for a while. Yeah. So, I keep beating him over the head with that trade. I feel a little bad about it, but I don't think that trade would have made this team good if he didn't do it.
No.
But
Well, this is a team that's totally invested in Eagles. If LaShawn McCoy and Deshaun Jackson don't do well, this team doesn't forget 100-point potential. They don't even have 70-point potential if these two guys are not doing well. And I was telling Anthony I was watching the Red Zone, and they're like, "Boy, we'd sure love to show you that Eagles-Cowboys game, but nobody's scoring any points at all. They're just punting it back and forth across the field at 0-0 deep into the game." And so that's what you're going to get. I mean, even if they do well,
and everybody thought that game was going to be high scoring.
Right, and with Jay Cutler out for a month or so, and him relying now on, I guess, Alex Smith, I mean, that's going to be some pretty mediocre scores. He's been okay. He's been just adequate, sort of on the low end of adequate. So, I mean, he's got a few 20-point, no 30-point weeks, and some weeks under 10. So, I mean, it's bad and getting worse. This is the worst team for sure.
Can we eliminate this team? Worst team? Yeah.
Hey, so can Tavon Austin get better without Sam Bradford?
No. Sam Bradford's good. I don't care what you guys say.
No, Tavon Austin is replacement level at this point. If this wasn't a keeper league, I'd say drop him. I mean, what's he done? He's done nothing all year.
Well, what I'm saying is, can a different quarterback maybe give him more targets and make maybe break him out of whatever does Sam Bradford?
Kellen Clemens?
I don't know, man. I'm asking the question.
Nobody's better than Sam Bradford, dude.
That's true.
Come on.
Yeah.
Sam Bradford had a very impressive season, and I wish we'd put an injury clause in our little bet there.
I think we did.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Get the vodka ready for your eyeball.
I'll let you out of that bet, Hillers. That's fine. I'll let you out of it.
He was doing pretty damn good.
Because I'm merciful. One thing I will say on preseason predictions, just to make myself look good, is the power rankings. I think a lot of people had this team higher than they ended up being.
Then worst.
Number 12. I had them number 12 from the start, so I just
good foresight.
Toot my own horn there. Toot. So.
All right, let's keep it moving.
I get one right every now and then.
Yeah, don't
Puppet
toot it
Masters
too many times.
is our next division here. And the highest scoring team in the Puppet Masters division was one Black Widows. Name change must have worth something here, and scored 116.9 points to beat EBS and Dad Dicks. Go to 3-7 on the season, still in last place, and still 4 games back with 6 to go. But Anthony, was my first time coming into a 2-0 Monday, or coming into Tuesday 2-0 in about 2 years, so it felt pretty good. Is there more of this to come? Is there more of this to come for my team? Give me some hope, man.
I think there is more of this to come. Although, don't go crazy and take into the streets yet, because you had pretty bomb performances out of guys that usually don't put up those kinds of numbers. Russell Wilson is not usually a 26-point quarterback. Harry Douglas, I think that was a great pick on Harry Douglas.
A lot of potential there.
If he gets his targets, then he's going to perform. But remember, you have Steven Jackson coming back and Roddy White coming back soon, so I think some of those targets are going to go down. And then Panthers D, do not expect. I mean, you merrilled all of us scoring 37 points at your kicker and defense. So
Panthers D is a top 5 D this year, though. They're legit.
Okay. All I'm saying is don't expect 21 points. So you take away let's say one of those things, and now you're at about $1.05, $1.10, which is good. But it's not necessarily 2-0 week to week.
How come you don't take away other teams' points? You only take away mine. I'm just kidding.
I don't know.
Hillers, I'm just messing with you, man. I need my points.
You did exactly what a team in your position should have done. Losing is to try to make whatever the best trade you possibly can make on your whole team. And your waiver wire pickups have been. Really good. You spent your money in the right places. I mean, I think Zach Stacy is looking like he could be a flex guy for you. on any given week. You've got a ton of depth down there. You're not having to hope Dwayne Bowe will be good anymore with Harry Douglas. I don't think. I mean, with the way that
or James Jones if he comes back,
or James Jones if he comes right. So you've totally done everything right for a team that's losing, and your team's getting better, and I think the score reflects that. Now, can you rely on 21-point defenses or a 16-point kicker? No, you can't. But on those weeks where they don't happen, Antonio Gates could have a better game. Maybe Roy Halou doesn't get all the touchdowns for the Redskins. I would almost wonder if you should still be starting Fitzgerald with the guys that you have on your team. As crazy as that is to say.
Yeah, Fitzgerald, I think he's like the number 17 receiver on the year, so he's still pretty good, but it terrifies me to sit him. I know he's hurt right now, and I didn't really have much of a choice.
What about when Percy Harvin comes back?
Well, that's going to be, then it gets a little tricky, but by that point, maybe Harry Douglas won't be such a good start anymore, or I've got some bye weeks coming up. I mean, we'll see. Week by week, we'll see how that goes. I mean, you say you can't depend on 26 points from Wilson and 20 from Douglas and stuff like that. Yeah, one of the things, and again, not that I built a good team, but when you build a good team is when you have Dudley from your guys like Josh Gordon, Larry Fitzgerald, Antonio Gates put up less than 3.5 points each. You hope to have those blow-up performances to make up for that, right? So maybe next week Gates puts up 8 to 10, and Josh Gordon gets back to 100 yards, and that makes up for the points elsewhere. I mean, you try to build up a team with as many potential 20-point guys as possible, right? I mean, that's kind of your goal.
Your big weakness is quarterback, but otherwise your lineup is extremely solid right now.
Yeah. Well, hopefully Jake Locker, who's been pretty solid this year, maybe he pans out. I don't know. We'll see. But
maybe
predictions preseason. Anthony's the only one who had a playoff prediction for my team. He had me winning the division and losing in the championship to Hillers. Anthony, I take it you're probably going to cave on that one, right?
Yeah, I think that you're in too much of a hole.
Yeah.
To dig out. So.
I can understand that. I'm excited about Percy Harvin, by the way. He's fast. Dad Dicks are our next team. They scored 103.7 points. They lose to the Widows, but they beat the Assassins. They go so it's 1-1 on the week, which brings them keeps them at 500 to 5-5 on the year, tied for second in the division, but winning the tiebreaker and 2 games back of Anthony. So Hillers, we've kind of gone back and forth on the Dad Dicks. This was the week he was worried about, doubleheader week, no Jimmy Breeze, and he still put up a pretty good score. Ended up going 1-1. I got to think he's pretty happy with that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a team where I look at it and I look down his lineup and I like every guy in there. Tony Romo, I like it. Danny Woodhead, good pickup, savvy stuff. Le'Veon Bell, Brian Hartline, Decker, Taron Williams, Jordan Reed, everybody. I like them all. I don't love anybody on this team, but I don't hate anybody on the team. You know what I mean? So I feel like they're going to be in the 100-point range very frequently. When Jimmy Graham gets back and Drew Brees, then it becomes even scarier. So, I mean, I would now call this, sort of playoff-looking team. It's a 5-5 team.
When you say you love everyone on this team, is that like you would go up and you would hug them and like a hold hug, or you do like a bro hug with like the pats on the back?
I said I like them. I said I like everybody on this team, but I don't love them. Except for Drew Brees and Jimmy Graham, and they would get, maybe an uncomfortably long hug.
Okay. All right. Anthony.
Maybe I'd try to steal a lock of hair.
Anthony, are you loving the Dad Dicks?
I like the Dad Dicks.
As a friend?
I more than like them, but I don't love them. I think they have a solid team. Just as Hiller said, they have a solid team up and down. When Breeze is on, this team is pretty much unbeatable. And then I really like his pickup of Jordan Reed. I think he was a tight end that maybe flew under the radar for most of us, and he picked him up at a great time. And now I think that with both Jordan Reed,
Redskins fans,
now with both Jordan Reed and Jimmy Graham, I think you can start Jimmy Graham in the flex every week and just start your best 2 of the other sets. So.
Yeah,
this was Jordan Reed's biggest game in terms of targets, receptions, yards, and tied for the best in touchdowns. So just 1 week, but I'm not denying the potential there, but just to temper that a little bit.
Well, I think he is, but the other thing is RG3 is getting healthier every week too, and kind of getting back in the
He
groove.
is looking
and
better.
maybe as that happens, Jordan Reed's value goes up a little bit. But look, he needed a sub for Jimmy Graham, and he plugged in Jordan Reed, and 19 points.
19 points. Can't argue with that.
Didn't miss Jimmy Graham at all.
So, tight end is always kind of a weird position on how do you rank your tight ends. Like, what constitutes a top 5 tight end every year? It seems to change. It seems to change every year. There's 3 staples in Jimmy Graham, Gronk, and I don't know. Jimmy Graham and Gronk probably, I would say Jimmy Graham and Gronk are the 2 staples, and then you got the whole next echelon where, Witten is occasionally or most of the time in the top 5, but then
Tony
other
Gonzalez,
years,
Jason Witten, those guys, like that's your next.
Yeah, but then you'll get like a Brandon Myers in there one year, or Kyle Rudolph in there another year, and then every other year those people are completely off the radar. So if Jordan Reed is just sort of your average tight end, which I think he is, I mean, let's say 5 to 8 points, then he's got that position set. And he could put Jimmy Graham in that will clearly outscore most of your other wide receiver 2s or your other flex spots. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I mean, you can plug him in basically as a wide receiver, and and only play 2 other wide receivers. I mean, he can basically be your wide receiver 1 or your wide receiver 2.
Yeah. I mean, so just as an example here, the number 11 and the number 12 tight ends in the league this year are free agents. Just because nobody can seem to get a handle on the tight end.
Well, because tight ends, when you look at tight ends, you look at targets a lot, right? Like,
Don't dare accuse me of not getting a handle on my tight end situation.
So what's the difference between like Jimmy Graham, the staples every year? You've got Jimmy Graham, Gronk, Jason Witten's usually pretty much always top 5. Tony Gonzalez is up there. Like, they get targets, right? They're a focal point of the offense. They get catches even outside of the red zone. They're not touchdown dependent, right? They're going to get points whether they score touchdowns or not. These other guys, like, you kind of get to that middle class tight end where, they'll get 30 to 40 yards a week, and you hope they get in the end zone, hope they get a touchdown or 2. That's kind of where those guys are.
Your Kyle Rudolphs.
Right. That's where your rankings break down. Like, whoever gets that like 2 or 3 extra touchdowns on the season ends up ranked the highest in that group. Like, that's kind of how that works.
Yeah, I
know. You gotta, that's kind of what you hope for. But, savvy moves. Romo, unfortunately, in a week where he had a great matchup, and the reason he kept him didn't kind of put up a stinker for him. And a good Romo week might have won him both games. Sits Chris Johnson though. That was kind of a puzzling move, I thought, but I guess.
Well, Chris Johnson had a tough matchup at San Francisco.
Yeah, and both Danny Woodhead and Le'Veon Bell are perfectly startable guys that I would plug into my lineup in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when you look at it, is he any better than them? Not really. So you go based on matchup.
He's got a couple of double-digit points on the season.
Yeah. All right. So predictions on this team. Me and you, Hillers, had playoff predictions for this team. I said they would be a wild card and they would lose in the championship. And I guess I'm going to hold on that one. Is that an option? Like, I think that's still possible.
Yeah.
I still see this as a wild card team, actually. So I'm gonna I guess brag on that one. And Hillers, you had them as a division winner and eventual champion.
I think division winner is probably a bit out of reach, but playoff team seems extremely plausible.
So you have Anthony winning that division then.
Yeah, at this point.
Yeah. Okay.
2 games is a lot of games to make up with 6 games left to play.
So you have no reason to give up on champion then if he's going to be in the playoffs, right?
Correct. Might as well. Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. And Anthony is our next team here. He put up 101.7 points, loses to the Black Widows, but beats the Assassins. Goes to 7-3 on the year. Goes up 2 games in the division in first place. Hillers. Anthony just kind of keeps plugging along. You look at his lineup. At least I look at his lineup.
Hanging around.
Like, you don't look at his lineup and think, oh, God, I never want to face this team. But he gets the numbers every week, right?
No, I'm never scared of the lineup, but maybe I should be because it always seems to he always seems to find some way to get himself up over 100. You know what I mean? And again, you give the caveat of a 25-point kicker in defense day. But
that's not way out of the question.
No, but that's not way out of the question. But it's better than average, more than you would expect. And most of the guys on this team did not get up over double digits, but he did have enough. And Marshawn Lynch did what your RB1 is supposed to do and had a nice, consistent day and well up over 10, and Matt Stafford did what he got him to do, which is put up an over 30-point day. And if that doesn't happen, maybe Gio gets a couple of touchdowns that week. Obviously the Reggie Wayne thing is going to be a big hit for him. I think this team is maybe not as good as their record suggests that they are, but it's still a very solid team and one that is almost certainly going to make the playoffs with their record the way it is. So.
Well, little bit of defense here.
Sure.
My team is number 1 in the breakdown and number 1 in points for if you don't count the doubleheaders.
I don't think anyone was attacking your team though, by the way. So I don't know what you're.
No, it wasn't an attack. I'm not as scared of your team as I am of some of the other teams, like Watson, who we all know, who I think is terrifying from the Drunk podcast.
Yeah. But no, yeah, Anthony, you're right. I mean, you're number 1. Like I was saying, I mean, it's a lineup you look at and you're like, wow, I don't get it, but you put up numbers, so you obviously know something that other people don't, and a lot of times you're not going to get credit when that's the case. People are just going to say, oh, you're lucky, which may be the case as well, but when it's consistent for this long, maybe
the whole game.
Yeah, I mean, there's always an element of luck, but when it happens this long, and maybe it's not, so. You traded for Lamar Miller and left him on your bench. I'm guessing that was more of like a long-term investment kind of trade.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, not that you're expecting a lot from him, but
well, I was pretty thin at running back. I mean, I didn't have a third running back with Steven Jackson coming back up until Andre Brown came back, and I had a ton of wide receivers, so I needed to do something to shore up that Roddy White position, which is still unknown. I mean, he may not return to form at all, so I was hoping to get something out of him.
I noticed you're not wearing your Roddy White jersey this week.
I miss Roddy White already.
Yeah.
I actually feel really sad that I traded him away.
I know, man. He was your staple. He was your, he was your guy for the longest time. He was like when you thought EBS, you thought Roddy White.
Maybe Kobe Fleener can be your guy now. I see you benched him, and he had more points than the guy you actually started.
I think somebody else has caught Anthony's eye, though.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a different Falcon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't thinking. I was thinking Marshawn Lynch. So I thought.
Oh yeah, you gotta love Lynch.
I won't tell Marshawn about Jaquiz. Don't worry. So,
that's a little something he's got on the side there.
Yeah, your little side piece you got going there.
Little something.
So. I mean, Anthony, you keep plugging along. I mean, you're at 7-3. Your magic number is basically 4. If you win 4 of your next games, you're pretty much in. Nobody can really catch you. So, what do you think, man? You feeling pretty good?
Well, losing your number 1 wide receiver is not good. In fact, losing your number 1 or number 2 wide receivers are not good. I came into this year with Reggie Wayne and Roddy White, and now I'm starting Mike Wallace and Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Oh, wah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get me wrong. I like Keenan Allen. I do like Keenan Allen, and I think that he's going to continue to perform adequately as a WR2. But I got question marks at wide receiver 1. So
sure. I'm fairly certain our trade deadline is November the 6th.
Yeah.
I think you got one. I think it's the 13th actually.
Well, it's been 13th in previous years. I think I checked it a couple days ago. Anyway, it's coming up very soon. It won't be too many more games. And if I lose this next one, maybe we talk about Brandon Marshall.
All right, let's do it.
So you said you like Keenan Allen. Is that like you like that friend you have that's always fun to hang out with and like come to parties, but like he's never someone you want to count on? Is that kind of how you like him?
Well, why can I not count on Keenan Allen? I mean, so he had a kind of a
4
bad
weeks
game.
ago nobody knew who he was.
Okay. Well, have you seen him play? Because he looks really good.
Well, I'm not one to judge how a man looks or anything, but
really, because you seem to be judging man relationships an awful lot during this podcast, Merrill.
Just relationships.
You seem to want to know how close
we just happen
people
to be
are,
talking about men,
if they're besties or not.
No, he does look good, I guess. I mean, he's fine, I guess. I don't know. I wouldn't want to depend on him. I wouldn't feel comfortable starting him, I guess. Do you feel comfortable starting him?
Well, not really, but yeah, no, I feel comfortable starting Keenan Allen, sure.
Compared to his other guys, he does.
But you sound pretty comfortable. Yeah.
I like Keenan Allen, but just the rest of my bench is not doing
He likes some relatives to his bench.
Right. I like Keenan Allen more than I like Marlon Brown. So, yeah.
Anyway.
All right. So our predictions on this team. Anthony, me and you had your team in the playoffs. Hillers bailed on you there. You had yourself as a wild card, and I had you as division winner. I'm going to brag on that one, and I guess you can kind of brag too, since you had yourself as a playoff team. But neither one of us had you advancing. Is that still got that?
I might be lucky to get a division win this year. We'll see how it goes.
Who's going to catch you? You think Dad Dix will catch you?
Yeah. He'd be the only one, but we'll see.
Okay.
Guys still sleeping on the Assassins even after their terrifying weeks.
Well, I think there's going to be some contention on the Assassins, and they're our next team here. They put up 64.2 points. They lose to the Dad Dix and EBS. Brings them to 5-5, tied for second in division, but they are losing the tiebreaker, and they're 2 games back. So, Anthony, I think I was talking to you today about the Assassins. What do you think? I mean, is this what we can expect from them the rest of the way? Is this the real Assassins, or was this just a bad week?
Did you guys hear that? Because I think there's a Brady alert going on.
What does a Brady alert sound like? Can we get a sound for that?
Ooh.
All right.
So
I don't feel alerted.
Yeah, I was holding out week after week that Brady would, holding out not that I wanted it to happen to the Assassins, but I thought that Brady would kind of return to form, and it looks like this 13 to 18 point average might stick for the rest of the year. I mean, yeah, the Jets have a good defense, but it's
the Jets.
But it's a team that the old Tom Brady would just go nuts on to embarrass Rex Ryan and the rest of the Jets, and I don't see that happening. I don't see that kind of embarrassment happening anymore. And also the just like the Packers, the Patriots have been successful in running the ball.
Yeah.
So that's going to take away a lot of end zone shots from Tom Brady. So yeah, there's a big Brady alert. And I'll also say that this quarterback issue in Minnesota is it affected Adrian Peterson this week, and who knows, maybe it might again. I don't know.
Yeah, so Adrian Peterson, Hillers, he is the number 6 running back on the year. Not really doing what we thought he would do. So you got
I
Brady.
take the number 6 running back.
Well, yeah,
I mean, including his 5-point week, he's the number 6 running back.
Well, you said you wouldn't take Arian Foster, who's the number 9 running back for 50.
No,
and Adrian Peterson's
that's beyond the pale.
Number 6 running back for 59. So I was unclear on where your line was on that.
Well, my standards have changed now that my
Okay.
team is a dumpster fire.
Right. So an underperforming Brady, kind of an underperforming Peterson, despite he's still really good. You said, are you still scared of this team?
Yeah, I mean, they don't look quite as terrifying, and I'm well aware that anytime you put up a sub 80-point week, your team is going to get crapped on in the following podcast. That's not new to me.
Right.
But
Yeah.
It's kind of easy to forget that the types of points that this team was putting up, and Jordy Nelson and Torrey Smith are still 2 top 15, I think, wide receivers. Jason Witten is still a very solid tight end. There's just a lot of underperformance all at once this week. I'm not sure if Brandon Jacobs will still, have the role that he has, or that he had in the last couple of games. Where he was able. I mean, the game before this one, where I think what happened? He got hurt or something.
Hamstring.
Hamstring, right? He had 23 points. So if he comes back, that's huge. If Steven Jackson comes back, he's practicing now. So this team could get much better later on in the season than even they are right now, and they only have a few holes to fill. If Tom Brady has a tough matchup and Ryan Tannehill has a good one, go ahead and put Tannehill in there. I mean, he'll put up less than 20 points, but he probably won't put up 4.
I would have called you crazy a couple of weeks ago if you said that, but really, that's not. I mean, it's almost at that point where he's got to play matchups with those.
You got to react to the situation, and that's the situation. The Patriots do not have the personnel they've had in previous years. I don't know what else is going wrong with them. But this is still a team that can put up a lot of points and is not out of the question, even with tough competition in EBS and Dead Dicks, to still win the division if things pan his way.
Yeah, another guy on this team, another underperformer, one of those big guys coming is Witten, who's had only 2 weeks above 6 points. He's been another guy who's been pretty mediocre. We haven't really talked about him much, but he's been a don't know if he's kind of at the end of his road. I mean, what is he, 31 now? But God, I hope that's not the end of the road. So, but he started Peyton Hillis this week. My God. I don't know. I don't know what this team. I'm losing confidence in this team, and it's mainly due to Brady, honestly, because Brady was a guy he was planning on getting 20 plus every week from, and he has yet to get over 25, and other than that, has only gotten over 20, I think, once. So, if Steven Jackson comes back, maybe that's a boost. But how much of a boost is it really? Because he's been getting good production from his.
It's just maybe a flex guy, though.
Yeah, maybe.
You don't need a whole lot.
I will say
he's doing very well.
I will say, Hillers, I'm going to apologize to you on Ruben Randall because we poo-pooed you when you started talking about how great Ruben Randall was, and he's putting up numbers these past 3 weeks. I mean, he's not getting a ton of looks, but he's getting the red zone looks.
Thank you.
And
thank you. So rarely does anyone come back and say, Hillers, you were right about that.
I will say Ruben Randall, maybe not this year is a great player, but could be a flex guy you plug in. It might be a good long-term investment there.
Yeah, a buck for sure.
Yeah. So,
not
Anthony, I didn't know if you had anything else on this. You're usually pretty...
The one other thing I'll say that, Mike, I don't think you're going to agree with me, is that it's hard for Watson to compete when he's playing waiver wire jump rope here with his defenses. I'm not really... Steelers are the worst defense in the league right now as far as fantasy points go.
Why would you start them?
Well, I mean, maybe because Flacco sucks, sure, but jeez, I mean...
Not that bad.
So the thing is... So we know that Watson's running out of money. He never seems to have a consistent defense, and in a year where for some reason there's like half the teams are scoring defensive touchdowns, you got to be able to keep pace with that. Maybe this year for whatever reason 15 points out of your defense is the norm, and if you're not getting it, you're at a serious disadvantage.
Yeah, he started the Rams a couple weeks ago against me when they were playing the Jaguars, and they got him 17. He's had the Bucks. They got him 13. So he's had pretty good defensive performances. The Steelers, I agree, are not the best option. Maybe he had claims in. Maybe they were maybe he had claims in. He just didn't get them.
Maybe, but
I'm with you, Anthony, on that.
So if you're planning to have the defensive strategy of I'm going to play the matchups, you better understand that you are saving yourself $1 in the draft and probably costing yourself anywhere between $6 and $15 in free agent money with the defenses that you're picking up.
So in this case, Watson has $11 left for the rest of the year, $11, and he has to make that last between. He probably has a kicker to go and a couple more defensive swaps, and that's just who knows what else.
So look, on the year, Watson's 5th in defensive special team scoring. So let's slow down on bashing him for his defensive choices because he's in the top half of the league.
No, you can bash a guy for starting the Steelers. There had to have been something better than that.
There is, but maybe he lost the bidding on him. Maybe he didn't bid enough, and he's kind of out of money because he's had to make up for his other choices. But let's slow down on let's not just look at these 1 or 2 weeks and say, because I think every other week he's gotten double-digit points out of his defense. So. I'm kind of jumping to his defense. I will agree that the Steelers are a bad start. I'm not going to argue that.
You get criticized for bad choices on this podcast.
But we don't know.
That is a bad choice.
We don't know what the circumstances were that led to that choice. So.
Yeah, well, I know there were 31 other teams playing, and I doubt they all had.
The other thing I will say is people say, oh well, that's why you pay an extra $1 for your top defenses. Well, let me run through the top 10 defenses for you right now. Okay, are we ready for this? The number 1 defense in the league is the Kansas City Chiefs, who Evan got off waivers in like week 3. Okay. The number 3 defense in the league is the Carolina Panthers, who I got off waivers twice, once in week 2 and again in like week 5. All right, the number 4 defense are the Dallas Cowboys, who are still on the waivers. The number 6 defense are the Indianapolis Colts, on the waivers. The number 7 defense, the Tennessee Titans, who Anthony, I'm pretty sure you picked up on the waivers. Okay, the Bears, who were like the number 1 defense overall. JD paid a lot for, like the number 9 defense. Patriots are 10. The Bills are 11. Cardinals 12, right? People paid for the Ravens in the draft. They thought they would be good. They're at like number 15. So let's not say you pay extra for defense in drafts because defense is almost as unpredictable as kickers year to year.
But it's like $1. It's not like you're paying $10. It's a buck.
Yeah, but why throw an extra $1 for a coin flip?
Well,
why just save the $1?
So you have less of a chance of having to spend $20 in free agent money throughout the course of the year.
Less of a chance. What determines less of a chance? I just listed you over half the defenses in the top 10
Where are
weren't
my
even drafted.
Seahawks here?
They're number 2.
There you go. What do they cost? $2.
$3.
$3. Well, I bid $3 to start with. Probably could have done it with 2.
Well,
Totally
way to go.
worthwhile.
Outbidding yourself there. Good job.
And all my competition.
So
but I
let's
can't
not say
obviously can't afford to be spending free agent money on defenses right now, and I bought that too. That's a fair point.
All right. Well, you got me
trying to
on one of
gainsay
the
that.
top 10 defenses. Turned out to work out okay. So, good job there. You
Well,
got it.
the Niners were another one that I paid $3 for, and they panned out.
That's 2 out of 10.
All right.
How we doing on the rest of them?
Well, we're 100% on your podcast adversaries.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, I've got the number 3 defense, which is better than your Niners, and I picked them up off the waivers twice this year. So
I wish them misfortune.
I'm sure you do.
On to the
So-
next team.
Your podcast adversary has got a better defense than you, Anthony. Let's move on to the Melon Ballers division. The Sex Cannons were our highest scoring team. Oh, I'm sorry, predictions for Assassins. Merrill is the only person who predicted something for the Assassins, and I predicted them in the wild card. Where were you guys on the Assassins preseason? Where were you? Running for the hills.
We're relying on years and years of data to say that this team would screw it up, but they have not.
You should go bring a data into this, Hillers. I know you better than that.
Some data leaps out more than others, and worst team all the time is one of those facts that's easy for even me to remember.
No, that's me that's worst team all the time.
You've only recently claimed that mantle.
I lucked out on the Assassin's prediction there, I think. So,
Kind
Melon
of.
Ballers, Sex Cannons are our leader of our last division here in scoring for this week. They score 107.2 points. They beat up on the Choop and beat the Tigers. They go to 7-3, first place in the division, 2 games up. Anthony, you mentioned pre-podcast that this team took some hits. Can Peyton Manning just overcome those hits, or should this team worry that they may face some scoring issues down the stretch?
Well, I think that it's not easy for any team to lose their number 1 wide receiver and their number 1 tight end. I know from experience, as does Evan now. And it's going to hurt him in points. I think that Finley was a guy that you can rely on week in, week out, and now he's going to have to start a guy like, I don't know, that Jeff Cumberland dude who may put up a donut.
Which number 1 wide receiver did he lose?
Julio Jones.
Oh, Julio. That's right. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right.
But if there's any team in the league that can live on from those kinds of injuries, I think it's Evan. He's still got a lot of depth, and a guy like, and he's got Peyton Manning. So a guy like Peyton Manning can make up for your donut out of Jeff Cumberland.
Yeah. Yeah, people are like, oh, Peyton had a bad week this week. 30 points. So
What a stinker.
what a bum. But yeah, so he'll get a tight end off waivers, or I don't know, maybe he'll trade Crabtree for something. But yeah.
I'd take some Crabtree, probably.
Well, so Hillers, what do you think of Evan's team? I can't remember
It's
what your
fine.
opinion on this team is.
It's a really good team. I mean, this is kind of what I would expect to see from them. Not necessarily huge blowouts, but no reason they shouldn't score more than 100 every single week. I mean, what do we have here? Nothing here is totally shocking or out of the realm of possibility for any of these guys. Fred Jackson, Demaryius Thomas, Jermichael Finley put up for him this week, but I agree with Anthony that he can totally weather that. And when Crabtree comes back, he's going to have even more depth to trade with. He'd have no problem if he wanted to trade in the next couple of weeks, or even just go ahead, play the waiver wire. You don't necessarily have to trade here. Everybody on this team is somebody I would be confident starting and thinking that I was going to win against most every other team in the league. So, yeah, he's one of the top teams again. Much to my disgust, because he's been taking these huge hits all season, and he's got enough going on still that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, remember he drafted Peyton Manning 2 seasons ago when he was hurt, and just threw him on his IR and kept him.
Yeah.
So
is he unbeatable? No, of course not. He's
unbeatable.
quite. Yeah, he seemed more unbeatable than this in let's say last season.
Yeah.
But still good enough that there's no reason he shouldn't be in the playoffs again this year, and therefore has as good a shot at the title as anybody else who makes the playoffs.
So Ray Rice, Anthony, is it time to panic on Ray Rice?
Well, yeah. It was time to panic back in week 2 on Ray Rice.
Yeah.
You know, some people were even saying this at the end of last season. Some people might be in that podcast also.
Yeah, I mean, and he does have an injury, but Ray Rice has one 20-point game, and he's got, let's see, 4 games under 8 points, and only one of those was even 7 points. So.
They just don't run Ray Rice. You know,
I don't know, man. But even, I mean, that's kind of true, but he's getting, 15 carries for 45 yards, 14 carries for 34 yards, 27 carries for 74, 5 carries for 17, his yards per carry is terrible, right?
Sucks.
I think the problem is also Flacco, is that Flacco is terrible, so they could put the extra guy in the box, and you know they could stuff Rice every time. The Baltimore is a sinking ship. The whole Baltimore.
Yeah.
It is a coastal city.
Sinking right into those crab cakes. Yeah. All right. So not much to say on Evan's team. I mean, we'll see how he overcomes the Finley thing, but if Peyton keeps putting up 40 a game, shouldn't hurt him too much. And he seems to catch some good opponents every now and then. So predictions-wise, we all had Evan as a division winner, and we're all looking pretty good on that right now. Hillers, you had him getting to the championship but losing to the Dad Dicks. Sticking by that?
Sure.
All right. Why not?
Well, yeah, sure.
Okay. Would anybody put... Yeah, I guess we're not adding the teams we would like to add. Like Anthony, you take me out of the playoffs. You'd probably add Dad Dicks instead of me, I guess, as a wild card, or I don't know.
I think
division winner. Yeah, you have Dad Dicks maybe as a division winner, and you as a wild card, right?
I think so. It might just come down to seeding in the playoffs, as I suppose it always does, right?
Right.
You know, it comes up to your playoff matchups and that seeding. So we'll see.
Yeah. Okay.
If Evan wins another title, I think I might vomit.
Just once?
Maybe. I don't know. It depends on what I ate.
Light Saber-Tooth Tigers are our next team. They score 103.7 points. They lose to the Sex Cannons, but beat PBJ. That was a close game Monday night, or Sunday night, actually. Nick had no Sean Moreno, but Evan had Peyton, and I think No Sean got tackled on like the 1 yard line or something late in the game.
He sure did.
And that would have given Nick the victory. So Nick gets Evaned and falls to 5-5. Well, stays at 500 and gets to 5-5 on the season. Second place in the division, 2 games back, and only 2 points out of the wild card behind you right now, Hillers. Nick's team has quietly been pretty good this year. Do you think this team can make a run? Or I mean, if you're Nick right now, what are you thinking?
I think it sucks to put up more than 100 and lose your game. I mean, that's a game that you think you could take a lot of weeks. I mean, you talked about, it's tough to take injuries, and he's got Randall Cobb sitting down there, which is a guy that you probably would want to be starting over Kenbrell Tompkins. But, even Tompkins had shown that he could put up better weeks than this. Other than that, though, I don't know if too many of these guys are going to do a whole lot better than what they did this week, except for maybe Moreno and Green is kind of, as doing the Green thing, but he's not going to get a whole lot more than 21 points a game.
Right.
Jordan Cameron is doing quite well, very well for a tight end, but still probably not more than 11 points a game. Everybody seems near the high end of their capabilities here to me. And so it's really going to depend more on his opponents than on him.
Yeah,
he could do a little bit better, he could do a little bit worse, but...
Maybe he catches an extra touchdown here or there, to give him a little edge, but
or not. Maybe he doesn't get some of these touchdowns, and then it looks like a sub 80-point game. So I think it's his opponents that are going to decide whether he gets in. I haven't looked at his schedule yet for the rest of the season, but.
So Anthony, if you were Nick, you're Nick right now. How are you feeling about your team?
Pretty good. He got a 500 score out of a divisional doubleheader on a week where he had quite a bit of buys. I mean, I guess he just had Sproles and Vic. Well, Sproles on a bye, but Sproles is easily your flex guy in this case.
Yeah.
So
the one guy.
I checked the rest of his schedule. Okay, so for the rest of the season, he's got Assassins, Chupa Libres, Black Widows, Sex Cannons again, and then Peanut Butter Jelly Time in the final week, which seems like kind of a tough schedule to me.
Well, it's division mostly. I mean, he's got one game against everybody in the division. So.
Yeah.
Anthony, you were saying?
Sorry.
The one guy that I'm kind of worried about is Kenbrell Tompkins, because he's the guy that you seem to play when he does poorly, and then you bench him, and then he does well, and then you put him back in and he does poorly. And to be honest, if I had Tompkins, I don't know if I would play him.
Fantasy roulette.
Not if Amendola comes back, you wouldn't probably.
Who knows? I mean,
and now Gronk is back too.
Yeah, I just don't know. But fortunately, he's got good old Roddy White sitting on the bench. So
is that fortunate?
No.
Well, I mean, it's only upside from here on
If
out.
his name was anyone but Roddy White, he would be on the waivers a long time ago. Long time ago.
But his name is Roddy White.
He hasn't scored more than 5 points all season. That's a train wreck.
He's been hurt all season.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter why. It's less than 5 points every game.
No, but it does matter because if he gets healthy, then he turns back into Roddy White, then he's not like every other guy on the waivers.
If he's good enough, if he's not injured enough to start a football game, I would want to see more than 5 points out of him.
What?
If he's healthy enough to start a football game, is what I'm saying, several times, and wasn't able to amass more than 5 points in any of them. He got less than 5 targets out of 4 of his 5 games here. I mean, he's got no more than 4 receptions, and that was a 4 for 4 against the Jets in any one game all season. None of that looks good. And if he was hurt, fine, but he was healthy enough to start, and so either the Falcons shouldn't have started him, or there's something wrong there.
Well, there you go. Maybe the Falcons shouldn't have started him, but
maybe not.
So right now, like you said, Anthony, he's all upside, right? So I think Roddy White's first good game has to be on Nick's bench. So you bench him until he has a good game, and then you plug him in. Until then, you're playing fantasy roulette with Kenbrell Tompkins and Kenny Stills.
Kenny Stills.
And,
that's
these guys.
That's one of those weird numbers.
An encouraging sign on Nick's team is that Colin Kaepernick ran for 68 yards. They were doing some read option this week, and as long as Kaepernick's running, that's where his fantasy points come from, because as a drop-back passer, he's not an elite fantasy option, but when he starts running, that's when you really crank up those points with him.
Well, yeah, and he's got Jacksonville next week.
And Stephen Ridley, I think, is finally kind of coming around a little bit. His last couple of weeks, he's at 23 and 11 his last few weeks. 21 touches one week, 13 the other, and he's getting the red zone touches. He's getting the red zone runs. So I think Ridley bounces back and he finally starts to pay off a little bit for Nick. So if that happens, and he's got Sproles and Moreno also, that's a pretty deadly 3 running back combo. And then so really you're looking at Roddy White as being like your flex guy, or Kenbrell Tompkins as being your flex guy, because those 3 running backs are quality.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I do like Ridley also, but Ridley broke that one run for 17 yards, or was that a receiving? It was a 1 run. Without that touchdown, and yeah, how can you take away a touchdown? But without it, he had a pretty poor game, and he only got 11 touches. And 11 touches is a little low for a guy that you have to rely on as your RB2.
Yeah, I would also temper.
Well,
maybe you can rely on Stephen Ridley to maybe Stephen Ridley will continue to get around a 10-point range. I don't see him being a guy that's going to bust out for 20 points
okay.
Too frequently.
We disagree on that, but
fair enough.
Okay, he's got Sproles too. Sproles can be an RB too. In this awful RB year, he can be. Hillers, you had Nick as a wild card. Do you still see him as a wild card?
Well, let's see. I took myself out of a division winner, so I got it. Yeah, okay, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I still got 1 space left.
All right. Peanut Butter Jelly Time, our next team here. They score 92.7 points. They lose to the Tigers. They beat the Chupanibres. Go to 4-6 on the season, 3rd place, and 3 games back of the leader. They lost to the Tigers, but Anthony, that is not all they lost this week, is it?
The answer is no.
The answer is no. That's a rhetorical question.
No.
The Peanut Butter Jelly Time, they took a big hit with their running backs.
Yeah, torn labia, right?
Labia, that's right.
There you go.
Labrum. Sorry, labrum.
There it is.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks. It's actually kind of crazy what happened to this team. I definitely had them pegged as the one of the scariest teams coming into the draft. They had a pretty solid team coming out of the draft, but man, I did not expect them to take such a dive. I mean, they are struggling to put up points every week. They're losing their games, although in this case they managed to win one. But then losing a guy like Doug Martin, at this point, PBJ should. I think he's out of the hunt. I think he's got to trade some of these guys for keepers next season. And Doug Martin was probably your guy to trade, and now you lost that. And I don't know what else you can trade.
You can deal Foster.
I guess you could deal Foster, but man, like
you're going to be selling low because he's hurt too.
Yeah.
But you can deal him for something because somebody will take Arian Foster as their RB2 or flex guy.
$50.
Doesn't matter.
Get him out of here. I don't want that crap on. Don't offer him to me.
No, but I'm saying you're selling him to a contender, so they don't care what he costs.
Yeah, I'll take him.
Yeah. So you deal Foster for a keeper. He's not out of it technically. He's at 4-6, but you look at this team. If he'd have started Griffin over Rivers, he'd have won. He'd have gone 2-0, and he'd be at 5-5 instead. It's easy to say in hindsight, I guess, but
yeah, because Rivers had been doing well. And
Griffin
had been doing poorly.
I think Griffin's the guy from here on out, and if there's any sign of encouragement, that could be it. But right now, if you look at his team, who he's got to start at running back, it's either, I guess Ben Tate, if Foster's out, it's a good thing he's got him, but he's got cracked ribs that he's running around with.
Well, how much free agency money does he have?
I think I think Brett's got a lot of money, and I suppose that if he
got a lot of money, he's probably going to spend it this week.
Yeah, if he went big on Michael James, then maybe he'll be okay. I don't know, but
then you're starting Mike James at that point. I mean,
it's somebody.
I'm somebody, but you don't want to start me.
Mike James is better than Willis McGahee.
Never.
We think he's better than Willis McGahee. Have you ever seen Mike James? If he walked into a room with a sign that said, "Hello, I'm Mike James," would you know who he was?
Well, at that point, yeah, you would. Marilee's got the sign there. What kind of a dumb question is that?
I don't think I would still. I'd be like, who the hell is Mike James?
What are you, illiterate? The sign says who he is.
Yeah, but I still wouldn't know who he was.
To be honest with you, if any football player walked into my living room right now, I probably would recognize them without their jersey on.
Not true.
How,
You'd recognize
that guy.
About the ankle.
No, there it is. I mean, we talk about Alshon.
Recognize me.
We talk about Alshon Jeffrey more than anyone else has ever talked about him in history on this podcast. And if we got him tattooed on your back, Mike, you wouldn't have no idea who that is.
I couldn't pick him out of a lineup.
Yeah, but
which
if
one of these
Rogers
did you put on the
Anthony,
waivers? I'd be like, I don't know.
Don't let your Quiz Rogers hear you say that.
I'm not going to fail that test.
You'd recognize him. I know that.
Just from behind.
All right, so. So, it's bad for Brett. It might not be catastrophic. I mean, if Foster's got a bye week, and then he's coming back, next week's going to be rough for Brett because can't start Ben Tate or Arian Foster. Can't start Doug Martin, so you're looking at McGahee and BenJarvis Green-Ellis as your starting running backs. Not ideal, but maybe he picks up Mike James. I don't know if that helps or not. We'll have to see. Because if Doug Martin can't run in that offense, I got to think Mike James is going to do a whole lot better. But in the next week, maybe Foster comes back, and so then he's just got his wide receiver or his running back.
His wide receiver situation actually looks pretty good. Our favorite guy, Jeffrey Alshon aside, Vincent Jackson looks like a guy that is in wide receiver 1 territory again, and across the league, whether he deserves it or not, Justin Blackmon is suddenly getting all kinds of hype because he had a couple of 19-point games in a row. As soon as he got back against the Rams and Denver, which aren't necessarily pushover defenses. But coming up, he's got San Francisco and then a bye, so he's not going to get a ton of help from him until maybe late in the season. So he's going to need to find a way to get to the playoffs if he wants that to be any good.
If he loses next week, people need to start making offers for Arian Foster because this was the last year Arian Foster was kept, and he's going to turn into the Adrian Peterson or MJD who goes for 40 plus in the draft every year maybe. Anthony, you had Brett as a wild card team. I'm guessing you're going to bail on that one.
Gotta bail.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brett.
No, we all kind of thought he had a strong team coming in, so just didn't get the breaks. So.
No one apologizes to me when they say my team sucks.
Yeah, that's because we hate you.
I try so hard.
You're the commish. Nobody's going to root for you. You're the commish.
That's true. That's not a lovable position.
Thankless job. Chupa and Ebrace are our final team here, and our opinions may have changed a bit in this past week on them. They put up 74.8 points. I think it's their second bad week in a row. They lose to the Cannons and PBJ. They fall to 3-7 on the year. A lot of that's due to a high points against, but they haven't put up a ton of big weeks. Hillers, we thought this team was one of the most consistent in the league up till 2 weeks ago. Can we write this team off?
Yeah, I mean, get ready for the, we already discussed the rule, JD. You scored less than 80. Get ready to hear some crap about your team, and it kind of has it coming. We all had high hopes for Trent Richardson going to the Colts. Obviously, it's not that I think that he's going to be bad, but that's going to take a little bit of time to get together. Welker is still solid, but Knicks and the Giants are bad this year. Antonio Brown was never all that good. Tony Gonzalez was never going to have the year at this point that he did for the Falcons last season. And so lots and lots of things on this team are broken, some beyond repair. And the only reason he even got into the 70s is because Matt Ryan had one of his few this season pretty good games. Actually, that's not true. No, he's been pretty solid around the 20s.
He's been very Matt Ryan-ish this year.
Still his best week. And I don't see how this can get too much better unless there's some trades or some, very fortuitous waiver wire pickups.
So let me ask you guys a question. Do you know who the number one wide receiver in fantasy football is this year?
Demaryius Thomas?
Nope.
I don't know. AJ Green.
Wes Welker.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's astonishing.
Pretty crazy, right?
He's very consistent.
He is. Let me make sure I'm right on
this.
That
Is what you want out of a receiver, though.
He's 2 points above
10
AJ
points all the time. Not a 30-point week and a 5-point week. At least 10 points a week, usually over, sometimes 20.
So if he has anything to build on, he's got Matt Ryan, and then he's got Wes Welker and Antonio Brown, who are great. Maybe he can.
Antonio Brown is great.
Well, not great.
He's great.
One
game over 10 points.
I lost my train of thought at the end of that sentence.
I'm not going to let that shit slide.
He's serviceable. I'll back off of that one. He's serviceable. He's a guy you can plug in as maybe a flex guy and be somewhat comfortable with that. Maybe this team's running backs just went out on him. I don't know, Anthony. This team, I think they clearly have running back issues. Do you see them getting over that?
No, not unless Richardson turns his game around. This is a team that was pretty much based around Matt Ryan and Trent Richardson, coming into the draft. And when one of them is a total bust, it's really hard to recover. So,
yeah, is there anything he can do, you think?
Spend all his free agent money, all of it.
I mean, so I think that he's out of the game, so he might have to go into savvy waiver wire pickup mode, and maybe you try to deal a guy like Welker. I don't know.
How can he deal Welker though? I mean,
well, do we know that Payton's coming back next season?
Depends on what they do at the end of this season, I imagine.
Well,
I don't know if Payton knows that.
Like, the thing is, depending on what you get.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get a good but a lower end keeper wide receiver, and then maybe a low end keeper running back out of Welker.
Yeah, I mean, it's value. You're just looking for value, right? If you can get a guy that has more value than you're going to have with Welker going to the draft next year, then you do it, maybe.
So you guys are describing fire sale. We all agree, this is time to fire sale for him, right?
Yeah, I think so.
He's at 3-7. I mean, he's technically, all 3-7 teams right now are already in their playoffs, right? I mean, you can't lose again.
Right.
You got to make a run. So do you look at this team and see a team that's going to go 6-0 the rest of the way?
No. No.
I don't see it. I mean, anything's possible. We don't really know anything. And we were pretty high on this team 2 or 3 weeks ago, We were saying this is a really strong team. They're very consistent. And
a lot of excellent trade bait still left on the team for maybe building for future years. We also said this is a team that's on a 2-year plan, right, when the season started. And they still are.
What's that based on, though? I mean, who's the 2-year plan?
Depends on who we can get near the trade deadline. This is the time to find out who you're going to be able to get. This is the time when you can sell high-priced guys for lower-priced guys. You can't do that in the offseason. So now is the time.
I don't see a lot that anybody's going to want on this team either. I think he's kind of stuck right now.
You might be surprised if you ask around what people would be willing to give for a guy like Richardson, or even, like a Welker. Or, I don't know. Maybe people like you, Merrill, think Antonio Brown is great. He can trade him.
I'd be willing to. Well, I got.
Yeah, there you go. You got to buy her, JD.
I have very Antonio Brown-like guys on my team already. So We had no playoff predictions at all for this team, so it looks like all of us may have been right on one team finally.
Hey.
So anyway, let's get into power rankings, guys. Should be some big
everybody?
shifts.
Oh, yeah.
Should be some big shifts this week based on history. And I guess, Anthony, are you ready? You want to go first?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
So in number 12, I got the Weenye Masters of Elegance. 11,
Shocker.
I have PBJ. 10, taking a big fall is Chupanibres. 9, Hillers. Sorry, buddy.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
a bonus.
That's a nosedive.
I knew it had gotten bad. I didn't know it had gotten 9 bad.
Yeah, well, all the teams I'm about to name I think are better than yours. That's how it works.
This week or always?
Maybe from here on out. So
Oh.
eight I have the, but try to argue with me on any of them, you know.
Okay.
Eight I have the Tigers, and 7 I have Assassins.
I think you have those guys a little low, frankly.
Yeah, because you haven't named one team that's normally in the bottom 6.
Yeah, I'm wondering. I'm wondering when some names are gonna crop up here. But anyway,
All right, Hillers.
I had at 12 the Weenye, which is where they probably are gonna stay. Merrill, despite your thing, I just got a little confused, and I put you at 11, but you're probably gonna be going up.
Fine.
I just,
Let's be honest, I don't deserve much more than that.
I was a little despondent this week. I just, maybe a little on autopilot here. I got the Chupanibres at 10, PBJ at 9. Let's see, I have the Tigers at 8, although after discussing them, I think maybe that might be a little low, and then myself at 7.
Okay. Weenye at 12, that's consensus. PBJ at 11, I have. I took some massive hits this week. Chupanibres at 10. Another team that's fallen. I've got myself at 9. I have Hillers at 8. Hillers, you've dropped took a nosedive for me too.
7, 8, and 9. Oof.
Yeah, and then 7, I have the Assassins, another nosedive team. So a lot of moving and shaking this week. Should be interesting to look at our motion chart that we have. But
yeah, that thing's gonna be.
Anthony, go ahead and bring us home here.
All right, so 6 I have the Feisty Goats, aka Black Widows. 5
That's
I have
absurd.
5 I have the. I don't want to play your team, Mike, and I know I'm going to have to again. So 5 I have the Double D's, the Dad Dicks. 4 is EBS. That's probably trending downwards. 3 is TDJ. He took a jump from 10 to 3 on my power rankings.
Finally, you're on board. Welcome to the bandwagon.
Duplex at the Deuce, and Cannons at 1.
Wow. Okay.
Duplex finally getting some respect around here.
They are.
After going 8 and 2.
Yeah, it took 8 and 2 to get
All it took was 8 and 2. Okay, so I have not too much different. The Dad Dicks at 6, EBS at 5, the Duplex at 4, Assassins at 3,
Wow.
TDJ at 2, and the Cannons at 1.
Still believing in the Assassin Sellers. Like,
I told you, yeah, I'm not.
By your guns there,
I'm
man.
not. You know, this week, and this is a week too. I view the power rankings as for the next week, and for the next week, I still wouldn't want to play them. I don't care what they scored this week.
Okay. At 6, I've got the Tigers. I think I've had them around there all year. At 5, I've got Dave. Moved him up. I think he was around 9 usually for me. 4, I've got EBS. Anthony, I got you moving up. 3, I've got the Dad Dicks. 2, I've got TDJ back in the 2 spot, and at 1, I've got the Sex Cannons because I'm not scared of their team when I look at it, but they win, so I'm scared of their aura,
their pedigree.
Yeah, like I know I'm not going to beat them, so that's why I don't want to play them. So.
Well, and in week 9, he has basically an assured victory, right? Or is that no longer the case? Because I know at one point he was playing Dave in week 9, and Dave's bye-week situation when he had all Niners and Giants and Broncos was
he
like
still has all Niners.
He wasn't even going to be able to field the team. You know? So I don't know. I'm sure it's a little bit better, but
well, it's all Niners and Victor Cruz on a bye, so
he's going to have real problems.
All right, let's get into predictions.
Gotta rip through it.
Gotta rip through it. Rip roaring. Whatever. So we'll start with the old rivalry here, Hillers. Me and you. Black Widows at the Hillers epidemic.
Oh,
just like
now that you have finally declared that I won the rivalry, I think you're going to win this one.
maybe that's what it took, right? I had to
you
yield.
just had to give up.
I yield. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what to do. I don't even know who to start.
Yeah, I got to pick me because any team with Jared Boykin and Aaron Dobson as their top two receivers, I can't pick them. I'm sorry, Hillers.
Come back, Danny Amendola.
And right now, your flex player appears to be either Robert Woods or Chris Ogbanaya or Joseph Fourier. So.
Oh God.
And he needs a new kicker, and I don't think he has the money to get one.
I don't. I don't either.
Too? Is Walsh out?
No.
He's hurt.
Is he?
He's been playing though.
Yeah.
Right, well.
He's fine.
So he's going to be picking somebody up, but I'm still picking. Are we just sweeping with my team here? Everybody picking me?
Yeah.
All right. If you have any great reasons, then just let them yell them out. Dad Dicks at Light Sabertooth Tigers.
Good matchup.
Yeah, it should be a fun game.
Pulling for the Tigers here. But let's see, bye weeks. Looks like Danny Woodhead's on bye and Roddy White is on bye. Chris Johnson also on bye. So some running back buys for Dad Dicks, but they've got Le'Veon Bell and Darren McFadden still hanging out.
The matchups on both sides are so cherry. You know what I mean? It's really going to be like how many can they score?
They're not that great for Breeze versus Buffalo. Breeze and Graham versus Buffalo. I'm gonna go. I'm going Dad Dicks here.
Yeah, totally. Dad Dicks.
Although Kaepernick versus Jacksonville.
If he picks up a kicker, there's another 10 points. If you're looking at just the prediction of points, so yeah, Dad Dicks.
I'm gonna go Tigers here.
All right.
Cap's gonna run wild in Jacksonville, and the Packers are going to destroy Packers defense is gonna destroy Minnesota defense. Destroy them.
Okay. Could be. So Nick's got to be hoping that Darren Sproles catches all of Breeze's touchdown passes. Assassins at Chupa Libres, two teams of the two. This is the team of the falling team, or the game of the falling teams. Bye weeks. Let's see. What are we looking at here? Nate Washington and Trent Richardson are on bye, and Torrey Smith is on. Or Nate Washington and Trent Richardson for Chup, and Torrey Smith for the Assassins. Assassins also seem to be starting Brandon Jacobs. Boy, they need a kicker. Ugh.
Come on, Merrill, we're breezing through. He's been practicing.
I'm going to go with the Assassins here. I don't know, just because they've been better this year.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Assassins as well.
I'm going to go Chup. And that's because I think Welker has a day.
A bomb diggity day?
A bomb diggity day.
All right, Minority Report.
Minority Report. Dave's team. I'm not saying the name. Dave's team at Peanut Butter Jelly Time here.
Can we sweep over this one quickly?
Yeah, I think we're all picking Dave's team, right?
Lovins.
Yeah. Lovins. And we can probably sweep over this next one, too. Weenye, Masters of Elegance at the Sex Cannons.
Ugh.
Peyton versus Washington. Wow.
Yeah. Our best bet for the rest of the season is that Evan gets arrested because of the beating that this is going to be and is unable to set his lineup.
Wow.
It's very generous of the site to predict 96 points for the Weenye there.
Yes. Come within 30 points of that in 5 weeks.
This is almost the week that you want to catch Evan because he only has 2 Buffalo running backs, and both are kind of banged up. Finley's now probably out for the year.
I disagree. I want to catch Evan when Peyton Manning's on bye.
Yeah, I guess that's another good one. But it doesn't matter because it's Weenye.
Yeah, counterpoint. Every week is the week you want to catch the Weenye.
Yeah, I guess. I play him next week, and I think I'm going to lose against him. I just know it.
Yeah.
I'm going to make fun of you if you do.
I'm glad I've already played them because I bashed them enough to where they would have beat me by 40 points if I played them again. So.
Yeah.
All right. So we got the Cannons in this one, right?
Oh, that's interesting. Weenye's schedule difficulty is first.
Yeah.
Well, that's because they don't get to play against themselves.
That actually is the case.
That's a lot of it.
Oh, that's hilarious and sad. Okay, what's next?
That's it, right?
Oh, all right.
No, me and TDJ.
Yeah, you missed
Oh,
one.
Enzo Bombardment's gone and TDJ. Ooh, big matchup here.
This one's got to be the match of the week, I would think.
Yeah.
I see Roy Halou is in the starting lineup for
Ooh.
TDJ there.
That must mean that Matt Forte is on bye, and Ryan Matthews are on bye.
And so he's starting Roy Halou and Monty Ball. Ooh.
I'll take
God.
EBS.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to have to go with EBS on that one.
God,
I mean, in another week, I think I might have had Pritchard beating you, but that is horrible.
Although, look at the receiver matchup.
Yeah, that's
I know.
the other thing. My
Calvin
receivers
versus Mike Wallace and Emmanuel Sanders.
Boy, this is have and have-nots all the way up and down here.
I'm going to have to. I'm happy that at least it's my quarterback throwing to Calvin Johnson. That helps a little bit. I mean, because it negates any Calvin touchdown.
No, he negates your Stafford touchdowns.
Yeah.
That goes against you, buddy.
Yeah, the only thing that you could do at this point would be to have, like, I don't know, Steve Smith or somebody. You know what I mean? If you wanted to negate each other.
Any pass Calvin Johnson catches actually hurts you.
All right,
Yeah.
well then
Let's
go
hope for Reggie
it.
Bush.
Double hurts you, actually.
Or Fourier. He might be starting for me, too.
You know what? Give me the TDJ. Give me my horse. Riding them to the finish line here.
I think that's a, this is going to be a close one. Match of the week, but I'll give it to EBS and a squeaker. Pritchard does not deserve my approval.
I'll pick myself. Why not?
Look at his bench. I'm like, oh, you can't start Monty Ball, and then I look at his bench, and everyone is projected to have 0 on his bench.
Yeah, you have to. He's like, which of these 0 guys do I want?
And Anthony only has 1 guy who's predicted to get any points on his bench.
One more prediction for you two before we leave. Predicted amount of money that Mike James goes for this week.
17.
28.
Yeah, I was going to say 29.
Yeah.
He's a starting running back.
He's a starting running back, and
so is
obviously
Rashard Mendenhall.
Some people need him.
Yeah.
So
Rashard Mendenhall is also a starting running back.
Should be fun to
spent
see.
all your money on this guy.
In 12 hours.
Yeah. Alrighty. It should be Brett, and it should be 25 plus on him. So, all right. Good podcast, gentlemen. Ready to shut it down?
Yep.
Yeah, let's end this.
Thanks for joining us. For Anthony, for Hillers, this is Mike. We'll talk to you guys later.